Hello YouTube, still on Unvariable 6, Cancerman COINTELPRO. Continuing on Rick Perry, yes I am. I'm going to start calling you Dick, I hope that's okay, right? It just seems more fitting. I was talking about the sales tax. The fact that Texas has a 6.25% sales tax in the place of their income tax, their payroll tax. And it's very interesting because the individuals, the members of your society, the people who live in Texas, the people who work for you, work for corporations in Texas, get to pay a 6.25% sales tax on things that they buy. Okay. The corporate tax rate in Texas is 1%. 1. And now that's the highest you're going to get. I'm going to read part of the tax code. Texas imposes a franchise tax, otherwise known as a margin tax, imposed on entities with more than $1 million in total revenues at a rate of 1%, or 0.5% for entities primarily engaged in retail or wholesale trade, on the lesser of 70% of the total revenues, or 100% of gross receipts after deductions for either compensation or cost of goods sold. Okay, so your corporations in the state of Texas get to pay between 0.5% and 1% on all the revenue that they generate. The people who live in your state, the poor people, the working class people, get to pay 6.25%. 6.25% as a sales tax. This is actually the methodology here, and the reasoning behind this is that people will not be intelligent enough to make the connection, to see what it is that you are doing. So the people of your state are still paying. You're just using that back door because you guys are dirty. You're crooked. We won't get into your redistricting of your voting districts. We won't get into that. That's a topic that we need to save for a later video, because that's interesting in and of itself, that you redistricted, that you chose to redistrict the state so that you could more easily predict the outcome of elections.
In Texas, we truly believe that you can't defer tough decisions for tomorrow's generation. And unlike Washington, we don't have some foreign creditor to finance deficit spending either. Last month, Texas made sure that frivolous lawsuits have even less chance of strangling job creation as we passed loser pays lawsuit reform in the state of Texas.
Loser pays. Let's explain that. If you're an employer, if you're an employee for a company, let's say that you work in a warehouse and that you drive a forklift, okay? And you're driving that forklift, and the forklift needs new batteries because the batteries are leaking, okay? You've known that the batteries are leaking. You told your supervisors about it, and your supervisors told you to drive the forklift anyway. The batteries aren't getting fixed. They're not spending the money. You're riding your forklift one day, and you go to pick something up, and one of the batteries explodes and blows acid all over you and blinds you. You decide you're going to sue the company for violation of workplace safety rules. You go to sue them. You get into court. If the judge rules against you, you have to pay your employer. Don't mess with Texas. Fuck Texas, okay? I had to say that. What a joke. What a complete travesty. What an embarrassment to the principles of our nation and all that it stands for. What a blatant assault on the people who keep this country rolling. The workers. You know what happened to all these corporations if everybody got together and said, we're not going to go into work for a week? This country would stop. These pricks with this money sitting on their high horses in Washington, in their mansions, or wherever, act like they are the all-powerful, the almighty. This nation would be paralyzed. They neglect to understand the concept, to face the reality of the fact that they need us more than we need them. Because they draw everything that they have from us. All of their money comes from the consumer and from the taxpayer. Without the consumer, they are nothing. Texas is a joke. They execute people in record numbers. Perry himself denied the stay of execution of a man when new evidence came out that questioned his guilt. He chose to allow that man to die. When he talks about being right to life, when he talks about the right to life and all that garbage, he's talking about his right to decide who lives and who dies. We're going to continue this.
And to make sure that votes are never canceled out by illegal votes, we instituted a photo ID requirement for every voter in the state of
A photo ID requirement. I've always been required to show a photo ID when I went to the polling place. Always. You mean Texas was allowing people to vote without showing an ID? I mean, what was to stop you from just driving from polling place to polling place and voting? I mean, you guys just did this? In my state, they've been doing this for 25 years. Sounds really progressive there, Rick. Dick.
See, when it comes to voting, one of the most precious, most powerful freedoms that we have, it is precious to us.
You're disgusting and despicable. You want to mention how important voting is after you've redistricted your state? In order to manipulate the outcome of elections? You're going to say those words?
And don't you think it's fair to apply at least the same standard required to get a library card or to board an airplane? Our legislators also protected the sanctity of life with a bill that requires a sonogram on those contemplating abortion. Think about this for just a second. You know, when liberals talk about protecting our most vulnerable populations. I don't understand why they won't include the most vulnerable, those innocent, unborn children.
Let me explain something to you, Dick. You guys are pro-life, you're anti-abortion, but you're against government assistance programs. Okay? So if a girl wants to get an abortion, you're going to say no. Or if the girl comes out and says, well, I'm a single mother and I need help, you're going to say no. So this is interesting. Let's take a look at this. You would rather the child be born and starve to death. Isn't that right, Dick? Your abortion stance is nothing more than an appeal to the emotional feelings of your constituency and to the voters. It is nothing more. You don't care about that life. If you cared about that life, you'd be interested in taking care of it and making sure that that child had a chance through every step of their existence, not just while they're in the goddamn womb. Do you understand me, Dick? Are you starting to get it now?
You know, when it comes to conservative social issues, it saddens me
Conservative social issues? What's that?
when sometimes my fellow Republicans duck and cover in the face of pressure from the left. And I'm reminded of what President Ronald Reagan said.
Well, I knew Reagan was going to come up.
At CPAC in 1977. I want to quote him for you. Prior to his winning the presidency, of course. But he said, the time has come for us to see if it's possible to present a program of action based on political principle that can attract those interested in the so-called social issues and those interested in the economic issues. In short, isn't it possible to combine the two major issues, those two major segments of contemporary American conservatism into one politically effective whole? I believe the answer is yes. Well, Mr. President, I
agree the answer is yes as well. You've made conservative fiscal economic policy about things like abortion. You've got constituents who are voting based on their views of abortion and their religious values and their views on firearms. You have people voting for you for those reasons, paying no attention to any of the other issues, because they go to church and you say you go to church, and they're going to make it all about that.
Agree with you. The answer is most definitely yes. And we need to stop apologizing for celebrating life. We need to stop apologizing for wanting to protect an individual's right to build a business. Of entitlement mindset that's out there.
Entitlement mindset. For one, you have your own sense of self-entitlement. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, Dick. It is a proven statistical fact that most of the people who run for public office, if not all of them, suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. Self-love. The love of the self. Excessive sense of self-worth. Arrogance. This is the end of part 3. We're going to move on to part 4.